So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, and did it need to actually be banned right now as of this moment? And to that, I will say, no, not really. So, first things first, we have Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, which has the effect of essentially a quick effect. Detach one material from this card, send one card from your deck to the graveyard. So this is not Foolish Burial because it's better. You can send any card from your deck to the graveyard. So, for example, we could send, let's say, Artifact Scythe, Fairy Tale Snow, Transaction Rollback. We could send Metal Foes Fusion. And all of those are valid targets. Whereas if we were to just perform a Foolish Burial, that would just be any monster, right? So that would be, I think, Armageddonite only sends dark monsters specifically, so this gaps that effect by a lot. And also it's soft once per turn. Honestly, being soft once per turn is like slightly concerning, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone like abuse Beatrice, so well, not like that, I guess. I don't think I've seen anyone really make multiple Beatrices because Beatrice's level is kind of just, or rank, I guess, rather, is terrible. So we also have the condition where we can use a Burning Abyss monster plus a Dante. So this would probably be like the rank 3 Dante and then a Burning Abyss monster in your hand. So this effect, it kind of sucks because you can't activate the Foolish effect here to send a card if you summon it this way, which is just a little bit like, just question mark, right? Like, what's going on here? If you play this outside of the archetype, you're actually getting more mileage out of Beatrice, which is just like, very intriguing. But aside from that, 2 level 6 monsters is pretty rough to get out just in general. So if we were to just take a quick look and go level 6, and we'll go effect monsters because we don't really care about vanillas for the most part. Yeah, we can just go through this, and the only level 6s that are like somewhat reasonable to play to cast summon Beatrice, there's like Virtual World, there's Bestials, and the new Fiendsmiths, but before the Fiendsmiths, there's really not much. You have Virtual World, right? And then, oh hey, Jinzo's a level 6. Yeah, I don't think you're summoning that with, yeah. So Mech Knights, the level 6 ones are terrible, so that doesn't really do it either. Keep scrolling down, and then we'll find Vendreads, which are able to summon this, like they can. And then there's also Drytron, and then Unchained can kind of make it. I don't remember the exact lines you use the Unchained cards to make Beatrice, but you can just do it, I guess. But that is a pretty Fiend exclusive way to make it. Thunder Dragons have some level 6s, but still not that easy to make. But technically you can do it with a combination of like Bestials plus Thunder Dragons. That would probably do it, but if you attach your Thunder Dragon to Beatrice, you're going to lose like the search effects or whatever, right? So if we were to go Thunder Dragon Roar, summon Hawk, or summon Thunder Dragon Roar, put them onto the field, whatever, detach off of Beatrice, that doesn't get you a search, so that sucks. And I think I saw Monarchs, just a few of them, not really that helpful. Aside from that, Chimera might be able to make Beatrice because of Apprentice Illusion Magician, or whatever that card's called. So yeah, that's about it. So essentially, aside from Virtual World, well, actually, you're not even really seeing a lot of Virtual World players anymore. So yeah, I think the most mainstream out of all these would be either Unchained or the Bestials. And the Bestials can't really do it as consistently as the Unchained stuff, so I'd say the Unchained kind of like Fiend Slop package probably was the best at making Beatrice, and no one really did it because it was super inefficient and just not that good in general, requiring you to run this horrible Garnet. So Fiendsmith Engraver And the Fiendsmith package in general, it's also still not that good yet. Because apparently for it to become a one card combo, you're missing a card. So eh, there's an issue. And these before were actually one card combos, but I guess you couldn't link off into a link 2 and then kind of go into Beatrice. But you know what? Beansmith can't really do that either. So if we're thinking about it in terms of efficiency, I think the Unchained way to make Beatrice, whatever that was, I don't remember that exact line. I would have to like look into it again, but uh, that was either a 1 or 2 card off of something like Normal Summon D Lotus that just gets into Beatrice and a little bit of something else. If we just activate Engraver, this is what the line would look like, right? So we go Engraver. Engraver adds track adds Lurie, special summon Lurie, link off for Requiem. Requiem special summons Engraver, the other one from your main deck. So yep. So you have 1 on field, 1 in graveyard, and now you also have Requiem in the graveyard and Lurie in the graveyard. So now we can do special summon Engraver from the graveyard, putting back Lurie to then make Sequence. And then Sequence can then go ahead and make Lacrima by shuffling back. In this case, it'll be, I guess you can do Requiem plus 1 of the Engravers. And then that allows you to special summon the other Engraver again, allowing you to have 2 6s here, and then make Beatrice. So after this point, you should control a Sequence plus a Beatrice. So some things to be, well, aware of. First off, if we make Beatrice here, well, you're able to do some kind of 1 card combos, kind of ish. So if we do Beatrice, send Snake Eye Ash, we can then use Promethean Princess by making it using the Beatrice and the Sequence. So that allows you to special summon back Snake Eye Ash, but this combo is much worse than just normal summon Snake Eye Ash because you will have Promethean Princess's effect later. So it sucks in that regard, and then it also sucks in the fact that if you have track to start, this combo just doesn't work. So you have to hard open your Engraver. So you have 2 Engraver and you need to hard open 1 of them in your main deck. So there's like a 20% chance you can do this combo, and then you lose half of the coin flip. So overall in your games, you're probably expecting to see maybe Engraver in, and I mean, when you're going first, at least, to be able to do the Beatrice line. Otherwise, I don't think you would, for the most part, do the Beatrice line going second. So I don't think it's that relevant. And if you're able to go into Beatrice, it means your opponent just has absolutely nothing, which is just, yeah, you have other options you could have technically went through as well. You could replace this with like just about anything, and as long as it's like some kind of combo, it would still work out, I guess. So in this case, let's say we replace Fiendsmith Engraver with, I don't know, let's say Kashtira Unicorn, and then you just make a Rise Heart instead. Doesn't mean like a Rise Heart is like incredibly good here or anything when you go into it through the Unicorn, going second, right? But you probably will win because your opponent has absolutely nothing to stop you from making into Unicorn into a Rise Heart, despite there being like a bajillion choke points here, right? So we have, in this case, we're going to assume we only have the 1 of track, right? So if we do Engraver Effect, that's a choke point right there, and the whole combo dies. And then we have Fiendsmith Requiem. If this gets stopped, whole combo once again pretty much dies, and you're unable to really do anything. If Fiendsmith Sequence can't resolve, that's dead. If Beatrice cannot resolve, that is dead. If Promethean Princess cannot resolve, once again, combo dead, right? And that's just kind of how it goes, right? So next thing is the fact that, what does Beatrice actually have the potential to do? So let's break it down. So if we go Beatrice effect to send, we can essentially send 1 of 2 things. So we're either going to send like rollback plus the Mayakashi trap, or we're going to send a monster to be reborn somehow that becomes essentially a one card combo. So, in terms of the one cards, the problematic one is actually not the Snake Eye one, I think, because that actually has not that high of a ceiling, so I wouldn't be concerned about that one personally. The one that's the most problematic is probably actually a White Forest, because you can go Sprite Elf. And making Sprite Elf is much more disgusting. So first off, now you'll have targeting protection for later, and also you have Sprite Elf, which is, kind of annoying, just regardless. And you kind of will have to deal with it. It's not like that hard to deal with, but if your opponent has too much advantage, you really, well, your opponent will really snowball out of control if they have a Sprite Elf when they're playing White Forest, right? Especially with Fiendsmith, it becomes pretty damn annoying. And the way they spam out bodies is much worse than, I would say, Snake Eye, right? So, next, if we do rollback and also sending Ghost Meets Girl, that's not actually that good in every single deck. So, noticeably, if we were to do that in Snake Eye, the only way we have to send a trap in our hand is to use Diabell Star. So if we do not have specifically Diabell Star in our hand, we just will have a brick that we can do nothing with, the Beatrice, right? Assuming we're not trying to do the Promethean line, that or we can just regularly do our Snake Eye combo, and then if we go into like Beatrice later on top of our combo, the Beatrice is doing absolutely nothing because we have either Ghost Meets Girl or Rollback in our hand, which is completely useless, right? So not great in that regard, and you don't really have a way to send it, and that applies to like a lot of decks basically. Well, that makes it a lot less generic, and there's a 20% chance to just randomly have this brick in your hand that also just is a garnet and messes up your kind of like combo interaction, whatever you want to think of this as. So if we ban Beatrice, this will stop specifically in terms of, I think, the Beatrice specific decks. There are some decks that get affected by this, but it's actually not all of them. So Snake Eye, if you cannot make Beatrice, you cannot do the Promethean Princess line, which I don't think is that problematic. And then this will also stop the White Forest line, where you would send, let's see, I think it was it a Stellar? No, what was it? Oh, let's see, Elzette, a Stellar. I think it was maybe a Stellar, unless there was a better two to summon. No, wait, was it Elzette? A Stellar, Elzette. Wait, is this even a one card combo? Wait, it is. Because you can send Fiendsmith Requiem or Sequence with the effect here, right? Send one spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard. In this case, we can send an equipped Sequence, and then special summon a light spellcaster tuner from your deck, which is just White Forest combo, I believe. And then that just gets into things, essentially, right? Yeah. So that plus the Sprite Elf is really annoying, and you can't do that anymore with Beatrice. But we look at specifically Yubel. Yubel is unaffected by this, and they're still able to do their variant of the Fiendsmith combo. Which, I mean, it's a little bit more acceptable, I guess, because they're fiends. So there's that. But, they also designed these to be, like, super generic for no reason. Like, for example, with Sequence, you could have just made Sequence require specifically only light fiends or requiring fiends. Yeah, that's just a thought. And then we have, let's see. What was the name of this card again? Aerial Eater? Yeah. So now instead of making Lacrima, you just cut Lacrima and also Beatrice, and you can just make Aerial Eater, and then we can just send D-Lotus, and pretty much absolutely nothing changes. I guess you save some extra deck space, which is like good for Yubel, I guess. So yeah, any deck that was sending Fiends, they're just chilling. They're not affected at all. So I guess you could technically do this for like, I guess, Infernoids to send what was the name of the level one? Like Decatron, I think. So we can send Decatron for Methian Princess and you kind of have some sort of combo. I'm not really sure how far that gets you, but you know, that's something you can do with the Fiendsmith cards. And yeah, that's essentially, I guess, what Beatrice really does. It's not actually that much. So if we think about the rollback, even if rollback succeeds, if you're going second, you're still going to also be able to open either the rollback or Ghostmates Girl, which are completely useless going second. So even if you were to have like the Avelstar plus rollback, it's not necessarily going to be that good unless you specifically have infinite impermanence, but that's just rollback specifically. If we have Ghostmates Girl, it does absolutely nothing in the graveyard. So yeah, completely dead card, completely useless card. So that sucks. Just in general, you have absolutely nothing you can really do with either the rollback or Ghostmates Girl. So yeah, I would say that tech, not that good necessarily. Same with like Artifact Scythe. All of this also applies to Artifact Scythe, but I guess the one advantage you have over Scythe is specifically that your cards cannot be hit by Called by the Grave, nor can they be hit by a Bestial, which both things listed here can deal with Scythe, but if we're just looking at sealing, just pure sealing, Dagda plus Scythe is much more efficient, right? So more efficient in just like space in your deck and extra deck. There's also the fact that this is a Lingering Floodgate as well. That is much easier to kind of produce. So some people might argue about like Moon. So if you go Moon of the Closed Heaven, this is actually not combo either because you actually need a third body. So you need to link off two monsters, and then you need to link off the Engraver that you're going to summon off of Requiem. And you're going to need to do that to make sequence, essentially. Because if we just go Moon, it'll just be Moon go Requiem, Requiem, special summons Engraver, and then, you know, you have just an Engraver on your board, which doesn't do anything. So, yeah, that's where this kind of goes. But if we're using the artifact, the Dagda in this case, usually it's going to go into something more disgusting. So with specifically how Yubel is going to use it, we would probably make Dagda a bit later, and we would probably already have Phantom on the field. And then you can go Dagda, and then Dagda effect, and then you would link off the Dagda for a Apollosa, and you would have the Unchained Link too. So the point in which you pop Scythe with this line specifically is, well, Scythe's going to be in the back row, right? So we're going to use the Unchained Link 2. So you have two ways you can do this. You can wait for your opponent to do something, or you can do this in like draw phase, for example. And then you can pop your Unchained Link 2, and then popping the Scythe as well. And then you can special summon back the Link 2. So that's one way. The other way is to wait for your opponent to commit something, pop one of their cards, and then we do the Reborn effect of Yama, which additionally has the effect to destroy any card you control. Right here. Then you can destroy one card you control, in which case this will be Scythe, which if this is sent to the graveyard this way, it will special summon itself, blocking your opponent from using any other cards in their extra deck. So yeah, that's pretty brutal. and also something you're only doing going first, but you know, you're only running the one Garnet in this case in your main deck, being just the one of Scythe, so 10% chance to do this. Well, open Scythe, I mean. And even if you open Scythe, this actually isn't that bad because you can just set Scythe and skip going into Degta, and that's all that really does for you. Going second, it's a brick. So that's the only case where your one of Scythe is bad being opened. Otherwise, it's okay. It's not the best, not the worst. It's still manageable, unlike rollback plus the Mayakashi uh, trap, right? And also, not fully related to Beatrice, I just hate the Mayakashi trap. That just I don't think Mayakashi players are even happy about having that card because it just means they're probably not getting support, and this is just what they're going to get, which just sucks, right? So that's kind of upsetting in that regard. But yeah, that's not fully related. And Beatrice, right now, I think we could still keep Beatrice around for a while until this becomes at least a one card combo, and then I think that's when this is most problematic. But the most problematic thing that Beatrice probably enables is White Forest, or any deck with a level 2 starter being able to then uh, for you to go like Beatrice, send level 2, whatever. So in this case, it could be like uh, Sprite Jet or a Sprite Blue, and then that's kind of Sprite combo. But you know what? A lot of decks already have like so much consistency. It's just a question of like, is this even worth caring about? So as the Moon of the Closed Heaven line, this specifically is just so inefficient right now. I think it's just not really that worth doing, especially because it's only good going first. It's kind of like iffy. In this case, I'm thinking there are probably some potentially better solutions just to what you have, and it's just situational, I guess, whether it pops off or not. But needing to be able to produce this many bodies, it makes it feel a little bit questionable, unless you're specifically playing for the moon, which in this case it's kind of like weird. So if you play the Millennium stuff, this is kind of like a one card Fiendsmith combo. And if we were to do this, right, it goes like um, activate either Golem or Sync Engine, and then we grab Wedju somehow. So we'll have Golem plus Sync Engine on field, and then we'll have two guys on the back row, which then we can send for Snake-Eyed Doom Dragon, which gives us 3 bodies, which is enough to do the combo, I guess, in this case. So the choke point here is going to be Fiendsmith's Requiem. So if we Ash the Requiem in this case, then you're going to be left with just maybe a Doom Dragon or either Sync Engine or Golem that guards the Millennium treasures. So you have one guy that's essentially just an effect monster that does nothing, so pretty much a vanilla monster, like a kind of bad Blue Eyes. That's how this combo can go, I guess, which is not great. But I mean, there's the risk if you allow this that they make a rank 8 with the Doom Dragon, which can prevent like your Ash Blossom, and then they can do something else because this does not require your normal summon. So this line is like kind of good-ish. So the issue with building your whole deck around specifically the Fiendsmith stuff is if any part of this gets negated, so the main choke point would be Beatrice. If we have like Imperm on Beatrice, then like everything else you did not like super matter, right? If this is a major choke point in your deck. So that's terrible. And then if you build your whole list around this, I don't think it's necessarily that insane either. But I think we're missing something important. Don't remember exactly what it was though. So let's see. the just Millennium combo that goes into Fiendsmith. If I recall correctly, this also halves your life points, which is not that great. So Ghost Mourner is actually a major threat here. So if we were to Ghost Mourner, well, it could be a lot of things. So you could make potentially the zombie vampire off of this. And there's one reason to make the zombie vampire, because the zombie vampire is like a very high odds of at least giving you a monster anyways. So you could make that with the 2 8s. And then if it resolves, you're kind of doing better. And you will potentially know what your opponent's playing, which could be advantageous. And then after that, you can link off the zombie vampire and whatever you summoned off of this, but it could also hit a starter, which is kind of annoying. So I think this is, yeah, probably one of the better ways you could utilize the Fiendsmith stuff right now, just in general. But still, overall, not that great. I guess if you were to do this with like Yubel, this could get some places. Does it get you that far? No, not really sure. But yeah. What would I rate this on a scale of 1 to 10? Just going into Moon. Because if you could go into Moon, this is not that great. Because if you instead put one more monster on the field, you're actually able to go into Isolde in a really terrible way by going, for example, um, SP plus another warrior, link 2, and then you just link those two off for Isolde. So in terms of ceiling, that's probably way higher, right? And can probably result in an FTK, unbreakable endboard, whatever you want, right? And you can do that essentially by summoning 4 monsters. So if we were playing the Horus engine, it gets there. It's dumb, but it gets there. So that's something. So like maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. In terms of engines, they're actually better splashable engines. Just in general, if you're just focusing on extension, because this also isn't that extra deck efficient. So pretend this is Lack Ruin. Instead, 1/3 of my extra deck is devoted to this. Is this really worth, or am I better off looking for potentially tech that I can just use with my deck? Anyways, so in the case of something like a Tearlament, if I wanted to get into my Tearlament combo, there are other ways you can do this. So, for example, we can do special summon Diabellstar, add original Sinful, and then special summon Snake Eye Ash. Ash adds Poplar, and then there's a line with this from just that to make a Curious, which is doing essentially what the Beatrice was going to do anyways, but it's actually a 1-card combo. So in terms of the main deck, that's going to be better here. With Boon of the Closed Heaven, this is still like somewhat worth playing because for Tearlament specifically, Beatrice was kind of useful, but you had Pilgrim Reaper, which is essentially just also the zombie vampire. So it's not like as consistent, but still good for tier in a sense. So it's not really affecting that deck either specifically. So if you wanted to like do mill 9, in which case this would be mill 9 more or less. So if we utilize just the Horus cards, right? So that would be 4 level 8 monsters. We turn 2 of these into the zombie vampire. And then I guess we only need to summon 3, right? Yeah, so we can do that. And then try mill, and then special summon a guy. And then we can go Moon. Moon make sequence, Lacrima, make Pilgrim Reaper, mill. And you also like remove some cards from your main deck by going into the Horus stuff. So overall, in the graveyard, I'm expecting at this point like 10 cards maybe in the graveyard. Yeah, just off of this, like the Horus stuff, which is pretty wild. So yeah, I mean, in this case, Fiendsmith stuff is still kind of annoying and doing, well, what it's doing, it's acting as kind of extension for some combos. Maybe not so much for some others. The Beatrice hit mostly, I think, affects decks that don't have access to a Foolish anymore, or they really affect the level 2 strategies, which I don't know if you think those are problematic or not, because once again, to make Moon, you would need to put 3 guys onto the field to begin with to go into like one of these Beatrice lines. So that would be like, I don't know, let's say we're playing, we'll go with Sprite. So if we're not playing something like Millennium, where you were like trying to do it through Moon of the Closed Heaven, if we were to just go from our regular engine into this, it's not as easy. I guess Sprite isn't like that good of an example, but let's go with Yubel, right? So we'll do normal summon D-Lotus. Activate D-Lotus effect. Okay, and then D-Lotus tributes itself. Then if this gets ashed, you just have 0 body. So if we were able to special summon 1 guy, we can't even make Moon. Okay, so not great. Okay, so let's assume we get Impermanent instead. So Impermanent on D-Lotus. Okay, now where are we getting 2 additional bodies? So maybe we can special summon, let's say, Phantom of Yubel, but that only allows us to go into Engraver. So that's like Engraver Pass. So we still need 1 more body. Not looking so hot yet. So okay, well, what if instead we specifically start like this? This might work, I suppose. So let's look at this. So all right. Well, nothing here. Spirit Gates. So we go Spirit Gates to add a copy of Dark Beckoning Beast, and then Dark Beckoning Beast can add something else. So in this case, we can add, I guess, Chaos Summoning Beast, and then here we can kind of Fiendsmith combo off of this. But wait, what do we do if we don't Fiendsmith combo? Oh, you didn't have a play to begin with, so they're not really hitting anything. So this will add this, normal summon this, and then you'll need to activate this effect to reborn a guy. And then that's how you get your 3 bodies to go through this entire line. And also, you can still do this line specifically with Beatrice, so Beatrice doesn't matter that much for this. But okay. If we want to do it through Moon of the Closed Heaven, regardless of whether we go Beatrice or Aerial Eater, we'll have to go ahead and get 3 bodies onto the field here, which is a struggle if we don't specifically have Dark Beckoning Beast or opening of Spirit Gates. Worst case scenario, normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast, it gets impermed, and then you don't get this. If you had this in hand, you can't normal summon this either, so that's a problem. So if we were to instead go maybe like Dark Beckoning Beast normal, and then D-Lotus normal, and then this gets like imperm, you would have had this anyways. So you still don't need to go into this. So you can just link these 2 off, I guess, then for Yama, and then you can bring this back with opening of the Spirit Gates. So what has this added so far? Absolutely almost nothing. So the only thing this adds to specifically Yubel so far is if we were to go normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast, and then that's a combo, kinda, if you go through Moon of the Closed Heaven, and then you would have to make Muckraker. But also, how many cards do you think this actually requires from your hand? So first card, Dark Beckoning Beast, we normal this, we go to essentially 4 cards from hand, and we'll use this later, so we won't count adding this or this. But yeah, we'll have 4 cards later, and then we'll need to discard for opening, so that'll put us at 3 cards. And then after that, we will go through this stuff, and we'll then make Muckraker, which requires yet another discard. So that's discard 2, normal 1, leaving us with 2 cards in hand, which is not great, considering all this really does for us is put D-Lotus on the field, and also locking us into Fiends. So we would have to do a Yubel combo, specifically using only Fiends, after this point, I mean, you do get the follow-up with Spirit Gates to an extent, so that's still nice. I mean, you always get it if you normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast. It's not really affected by the Fiendsmith combo in this regard. But yeah, then after this, you can get some bodies with the Fiendsmith cards. But I mean, what are you going to make with your limited remaining extra deck? Because you need to go into all of your U-Build things, and then you have this. In this case, though, it only requires, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, so a little bit better. You still have 11 cards for things, but yeah, you're going through a lot of different cards here. I'm not 100% sure what your extra deck would look like in this case, because you can run like Chaos Angel, you can run Access Code, you need SP, you might be running a Super Poly package, and then there's like whatever generics you can still make. Vardris, if you're playing that or not. Is Vardris even a fiend? I don't remember what Vardris is. What are you? A Worm, right. So you can't make that either if you're going through this line. So that's like kind of awkward, but it is like the only Omni Negate you can really make in Yubel, so that sucks. And then there's like Apollosa, which you always run, I believe. So extra deck probably looking pretty tight as well. And in terms of just like hand trap resistance, it's not really changing anything because like all of these different points are still very much hand trappable. So in that regard, I'd say nothing has really changed. Like if you opened Dark Beckoning Beast plus Samsara D Lotus, you have Samsara D Lotus and Dark Beckoning Beast, which is just obnoxious to stop anyways. The only like hand traps that work on D Lotus are very annoying to utilize in this case. So it's just already just extremely irritating. Like I'd be upset at this point. Even if you were to Bestial this, I guess then, like as it gets attempted to be reborn by Spirit Gates, you still wouldn't have used the Lotus effect, which is annoying. So if you were to later summon it with Muckraker after sending another one with Beatrice, that's still kind of Yubel combo. So yeah, right now there's no like super broken Beatrice line. I mean, there could be one later or it becomes more efficient, but as of right now, I don't think Beatrice actually needs to be banned yet. It might later, but yeah, for the most part, I think it's just fine. Just a reminder that Isolde is legal, and you can go Isolde off of any 2 warrior monsters, and that's genuinely a 1-card combo, and there are many ways to do this. And yeah, that will just be an FTK or an unbreakable endboard. Well, yeah, so that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.